Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Leading from Alignment with our good friend John Opolowski. How are you today, John?
Hey Jim, I'm doing well.
Good.
Just we get to do this recording today, and it's toward the end of a pretty long day, and
Yeah.
it just a good ending to my day. It's so good to be with
Good.
you and
Same here.
to share life with you and to share the mic with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
excited to be back for part two of our conversation around love, chosen, and enough.
Yeah.
Last week you unpack the first four of seven daily declarations that shape how you live,
Yeah.
shape your thinking, shape your heart, how you lead, how you relate to God and people. And
Yeah.
I said it last week, I'll say it again. Our words carry incredible power.
Yes.
God used words to create the universe.
Yeah.
And it's not just the words we speak to others, it's the words we whisper to ourselves
Very much so.
about who we are. So, Jim, why don't you just recap the
Yeah.
first four declarations from episode 314, and then we'll jump into episode
Yeah.
315
And
today.
I'd recommend if you're really interested in a deeper dive in this, go back one episode and listen. But just a quick snippet.
Hmm.
I start with the love of God. I'm loved beyond measure and without condition by my Heavenly Father. And there's other words, but that's it. We're going to start with being loved by God. Number two, we're going to go on to faith. As his dearly beloved son, I make God happy, especially when I trust him. That's
Yeah,
why it kind of helps to remove that thought of, I don't know, I'm looking for the ways I disappointed him today rather than the ways I pleased him today, coming out of Egypt and thinking more about the promised land. Number three was through what my father has done for me in Jesus and is doing for me by the Holy Spirit. I'll always be enough. I'll always have enough. I'll lack no good thing. God is my strength. And again, all these are scriptural.
yeah. And Jim, can
Yeah.
I didn't say this last week, but I want to say it now. If you, Pastor, if you and I go into our day not believing that because of what God has done for us in Jesus, that we're enough,
Mm,
we have enough, and we lack no good thing, you set yourself up for never being enough
yeah. What a
for
shame.
people.
Yeah. What a crime.
See, if I don't have that as a baseline in my life,
Yeah.
I'll never be enough for people. I'll never be committed enough, funny enough,
Yeah.
insightful enough, available enough. I would not, and I'll be looking for something from people they cannot give me.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to just bump into this recap
Yeah.
with
Well,
that thought.
even if for a minute they could give it to you, the next minute they'll take it away.
You
So
could take it away. Yep.
it's not a safe place to be enough. The
There you
eyes of
go.
men, it's not a safe place to be enough. You don't believe me? Ask Taylor Swift, right? I mean, everybody loves her until she marries a football player, then everybody hates her. At least the Kansas City fans, that kind of stuff. Like it, everybody we like today, we hate tomorrow. So do not get your
Mm,
identity from people. And then number
yeah.
four was I have influence. So my life is important to God and men. So what I say, what I do, what I believe, and who I am matters more than I can imagine. Just believing that I'm God's workmanship. I'm created in Christ Jesus to do good works that God
Mm,
prepared in advance for me to do. So every day I'm building the kingdom of God by being who he made me to be and not taking that for granted. Like, oh, I'm not Billy Graham. So, well, no, but the person I lead to Jesus doesn't know the difference between me and Billy Graham.
right.
It doesn't really matter to God. What matters to God
Mm.
is, is the
And
quality of my work and the fidelity of my heart, good and faithful,
that's right.
you know?
And Jim, I don't want to get too far down on a rabbit trail here, but that just
Yeah.
sparked something in me. I think we make a huge mistake when we compare our race to somebody else's race.
Yeah.
Paul didn't say, I finished Timothy's race.
Right. Yeah.
I finished my race.
Yeah.
And your race is different than Billy Graham's race.
Yes, it is.
God didn't judge you based on
Nope.
what he's called Billy to do.
Nope.
He's gonna he's gonna bring judgment on the quality and fidelity,
Yeah.
right, of your works. If it's good quality, good fidelity, they won't burn up, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so today's part two of this conversation, and Jim, you've got three more of these
Yeah.
powerful declarations that I think will help us live and lead from this sturdy foundation
Good.
of God's love and purpose for us. So let's dive into
Yeah.
the
So
next three.
number five begins to deal with my family because no one, I'll say this, John, I have never experienced anything closer to heaven on earth than my marriage. And second
Mm,
truth, I've never experienced anything closer to hell than my marriage. Like literally, I am not
interesting.
okay if my marriage is not okay. And if my marriage is okay, the whole world can fall apart, but I get to come home to a woman that I'm in unity with. So
Yeah.
this is an important part to remind me that I play a role in something. So number five is by God's grace, I lead my wife and family well. I'm the priest and patriarch of a powerful group of people called to reach their generations and forcefully advance God's kingdom. I want to
Mm,
daily remind myself of the responsibility I have to my family, my sons, my wife, my daughter-in-laws, my grandchildren. I'm the youngest child. I ascended to the lofty rank in the military of private first class. I graduated from very few things, and it's very easy for me to kind of be the funny guy that sits in the back of the room and not expect much. I'm called to be Archie, but I'm a little bit more comfortable being Jughead. You got to be old to get that analogy, but
yeah.
I really, I think God calls me the Fonz and I call myself Potsy. Like that's another 10 years I have. I'm trying to think of today what it would be, you know, but it's easier for me to just be self-deprecating and funny than to be serious. But this reminds me, my life has an effect not just on me, but on my children and their
Yeah.
children. There's that song, The Blessing, that went around
Yeah.
during
Oh,
COVID.
that song makes
Their
me
children and their
cry almost
children.
every time I hear it.
Yeah, I mean, when I sing that song, I think of my children, my grandchildren, and then I think of my grandchildren's children. And I remember that I will hold a position. Their story has something to do with my story. So I have to
Yeah.
remind myself, by God's grace, I lead my wife, I lead my family well. I'm a priest, I'm a patriarch of a powerful group of just revolutionaries, man. They are kingdom-minded, people. When I was born, um, there was not a known believer with the last name Wiegand in my
Mm,
family line. Atheists, high achievers, and alcoholics. That's what Wiegand meant prior to that. Then I might rebelled against my father, according to him, got born again and didn't go to engineering school. And and none of my siblings have heirs. So the name Wiegand, I'm the only Wiegand in my family that has male heirs. So when I was born, there were no known believers named Wiegand. Now, everybody that I know named Wiegand that's carrying on the name is called to the ministry and is preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ.
mm,
I want to
yeah.
forget that. Like that happens to everybody. That is a radical, beautiful, powerful departure of destiny for my lineage. And I
Mm,
pray that if Jesus doesn't come back for another 1,000 years, which I don't think
mm.
it'll be, but another 1,000 years, I want my children's children's children's. I mean, keep going, 30
Yes.
generations. I'm glad the curse is broken. I want my sons to live without it and my grandsons and my
Yeah. Me
granddaughters.
too.
Yeah.
Me too, Jim. So I'm sure over the years,
Yeah.
as a husband and a family man,
Yeah.
God's taught you a lot of lessons. I'm
The hard
sure He
way.
has.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's one lesson God taught you about being a husband, a father,
Yeah.
a leader in your home?
The I have my to-do list here on my phone. Um, the number one thing is to love God today with all of what I call my ma'od, the Hebrew word for strength. The
Hmm.
second one is win Dina's affections every day. Dina's my wife. I think if there's anything that I would say is pivotal, it's the love God, all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbors yourself. I know that's number two, but I think my neighborhood begins with my wife. I
Yeah,
would say if there's
I agree.
anything, if my wife does not compete well, she if I love my dog for 5 minutes more than she thinks I love her, there's a problem.
Mm.
And I get rid of the dog if that's the case. And then 3 years later, she says, "Hey, we should get a dog." Like, okay, you know. But my wife should never have to compete with a bass boat or a crossbow or a baseball bat or my sons or the church or my staff.
Mhm.
She does not compete well. She wasn't created to compete. She was created to complete. And so when I put her in a position of competing with something, I'll say this: if I were to physically fight my wife, I would win because I'm physically stronger. But if I'm to emotionally fight my wife, she wins, and it's not even a fair fight. It literally. So I never want to put her in the position where she has to use her strength to get my attention. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does
I
make
want to
sense.
remind myself every day that my great grandchildren's
Right.
eternal destiny has to do with whether or not I buy my wife an iced tea on the way to work today to remind her that she is number one of all my earthly relationships. It's a
Yeah.
simple thing. It's a very low cost to pay, but if Dina is not okay, I'm not okay, and really nothing's okay. So that's my
Yeah.
lesson. Hey, can I say
No,
this one
that's
other thing?
good.
This is a Dave Reaver story. Those of
Please.
you who know Dave Reaver. Dave
Yes.
and his wife Brenda were married forever, and when I was in my 20s, I picked him up to give him a ride to a place, and I had he and his wife Brenda in the back seat of my 1981 Pontiac Bonneville. And I said, Brother Reaver, I'm getting ready to go into the vocational ministry. I think I might have met the right girl. What advice do you have to give me? He said, okay, look in your rearview mirror. I looked in my rearview mirror, and he and Brenda start making out in the back seat of my car. And Dave got half his body blown off by a phosphorus grenade
Yeah.
in Vietnam. He is about as attractive as an overcooked pizza, and they are face sucking in the back seat. I want to spray Lysol in the back seat of my car. Like I'm not allowed to do that in my back seat. You're not allowed to do that in my back seat. And he said, and after a minute, he said, "Did you get that, or do you need more?" I said, "No, sir. I think I got plenty of it. I just don't know what you're saying to me." He said, "I'm saying this that you need to love your wife more than anybody. That's your responsibility. The church, it's not the church's responsibility to love your wife. It's your responsibility. It's not her sister's responsibility. It's not her friend. It's your responsibility. You love your wife more than anything else." I never forgot it. I just thought I didn't get it, but I never forgot it. Now that I've been married 37 years, I get it. It is,
Yes.
it is definitely the spot where the glory comes out. And I want to be right there. And that my wife is a combination lock that's forever changing the combination. And every day she's a puzzle to be solved. She's a mystery to
Hmm.
be enjoyed. She's a calculation with zero sum total. I will never figure her out, but every day I am going to once again. I jokingly say I'm trying to win the Husband of the Year award. There's only one judge, but she can be pretty tough, you know. So you love her when it's just the two of you, and then you love her when there's babies and she's exhausted. Then you love her when the babies have the nerve to leave the home and she doesn't know who she is, and you love her through menopause, and you love her and you love her and you love her. And that, I mean, if I've discovered anything about how to treat a wife, I think Paul's right. Husbands, just love your wives. Just love them. What does that mean? Just
Hmm.
love them. How do I do that? I don't know. But just figure it out and love them. And
Right.
yes, you'll get all the questions right one day, and you won't even have the right questions the next day. That's part of. I have a
Sure.
toggle switch. That's a male soul. It's on or it's off. Her soul looks like the dashboard of a 747, John. I'm not kidding you. There's buttons and levers and lights and things are flashing, and at any given day I can crash the plane pretty hard. But every day I wake up saying I'm going to win her heart again today, as if it's our first day, and
That's so good.
that is a good lesson for every husband.
Yeah. And pastors, I think you've heard enough from this podcast and other sources uh, about the priority of your family. They
Yeah,
are the most important disciples in your
yes,
life.
they are.
They are the ones who will be around you when you are promoted to glory. Um, they are the ones who will carry on whatever you've deposited in them in their own life.
Yeah.
And I love that declaration, Jim. I love the priority of it. I love the power of it and the
Yeah.
beauty of that. So give us the next one.
Yeah, so number six was actually the first one I ever wrote out, and it's this. Now this is not universal. This is more personal. But again, if you know what God created you to do, you should write down something about that on a good day so you can remember it on a hard day. So I'm anointed with wisdom and language to connect people in a greater way to what God sees when He looks at them, connecting them to God, their purpose, their neighbor, and the world around them at a higher level. I
Mm,
believe that's a unique gifting that God's given me that I can look at somebody that doesn't see themselves quite yet, and I can ask them some simple questions. And through that, develop a narrative and see if we can't connect a much higher purpose to their life than screwing this nut into this bolt 50 hours a week in a windowless factory for the next 30 years.
yeah,
I think that's something, as you know, and probably by this listening, has listened for a while knows. I do believe that everybody has a purpose, and I am overjoyed when I get to help somebody discover that or teach someone how to help
sure.
someone discover that.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, as I've observed your life now for
Yeah.
over 10 years. We've been friends.
Yeah.
And sometimes that is a teaching moment.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I think it's a discerning moment too.
Sure.
And so I wanted to ask you about the
Yeah.
discerning side of that for a minute.
Yeah.
How do you discern what God sees in somebody?
Yeah.
And where do you got to be careful with that, Jim? Like,
Yeah. No,
could you get out of the, your depth with that at some
sure.
point?
Yeah. I think once you get comfortable saying, gee, that's weird. I don't know what to say to you next. That's okay. I think to say, can I ask you a question? And just pull on a string and see what it's attached to. I'm not saying that ask people what's your passion, pain, proficiency, and then prophesy to them. I'm simply saying
Mm,
that I think the conversation itself has enough substance in it that without having a prophetic gift or word of knowledge, people can begin to at least eliminate 80, 90% of their options and head in a direction that's far more
yeah,
focused than it would have been. I think most people are paralyzed by the thought of major change or purpose. And so, but I think at the best of moments, I'm so excited when I say things to people and they start to cry because I know that their heart is being touched. I was teaching this in Idaho and to a group of pastors, and anybody want to volunteer? And the guy came up and I said, "What's your passion?" He said, "Kids." What's your pain? He said, "Kids that have been through a hard time." And what's your proficiency? He goes, "I don't have any proficiencies." I said, "That's not true." So I looked at the table that he was with and I said, "Tell me, you want me to like him? Tell me about him." They said, "He's really protective. He's a great guy. He loves kids. He's a grizzly bear. He's a teddy bear all wrapped into one bear skin. I wouldn't want to date his daughter, that kind of thing, because he's very protective." And so I asked him a couple of questions about his pain, and it turned out that 20 years ago he couldn't find anybody to help him when he was a kid going through a hard time. And his pain was that no other kid would ever have to go looking and not find somebody. He wanted to be that person.
that's so
So
good.
in this moment, I said, "Well, what do you do?" He said, "I'm on the security team. I work with children." Everybody clapped like that. You're supposed to be there. That beautiful, affirming moment where every pastor in the room, 100 pastors in the room, go, "That you're in the right spot, man." And I said, "I got one more thing to say to you. You are not the worst things that happened to you. You're the best thing Jesus has ever done for you. They believe in you at a higher level than you believe in you. And if I were your pastor, I'd take you on a journey of discovering really how wonderful God's made you to be." He just started bawling, and then everybody started
Yeah,
bawling, and we prayed for him. So I think I didn't manufacture that moment, but the questions led us there. And in
that's
that
right.
moment, maybe I've learned through the years of doing it literally over 100,000 times that I can now, I think if I swung a sand wedge 100,000 times, I might be able to get out of the sand trap. So
Right.
practice and exercise usually produce results here.
That's so good. And I would affirm that in you,
Hmm.
that God has uniquely gifted you to connect people to the God-given greatness that's inside of them.
I know.
I'm of the mind that every human being is created with God-given greatness.
Yes. Yeah.
And part of my role as a leader is to help them discover
Yeah.
and then call that out of them.
Yes, it is. You're a gold miner.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So that's such a beautiful one. Jim, give us the last one.
Yeah. So the last one is this is that I'm strong in my body, strong in my soul, strong in my spirit for the glory of God. I can do all things God asks of me. And then there's a statement at the bottom of that. It comes out of a book that I wrote called Grace Story. This is obedience even unto death. And that comes out of a very specific story that's a part of the book, but it's an orphan trying to decide whether or not he's going to trust his king. And he watches soldiers training, and he says, "Someday you may be called upon to defend this kingdom." And their response is one man was obedience even unto death. And it startled the
Mhm.
orphan, like I couldn't trust somebody more than I trust myself. And that really to me is a reminder of that there are times when I don't think my body is strong enough to do what God is calling me to do, but obedience unto death. There's times that my soul doesn't feel strong enough, but I do believe God's calling me to do things. And so it's obedience even unto death. So that's a little, that one's a little personal too, I guess. But just that thought of
Sure.
if God's leading me to do it, then don't let my body or my soul or my spirit talk me out of something God's asking me to do, even though I'm 60 years old And the
Yeah.
thought of going to Jamaica to rebuild churches, where am I going to sleep? Hey, it's hot. I don't do well in the heat. What about chikungunya? I mean, all these thoughts that come up, like
Right.
obedience unto death. I'm going to trust the one who calls me that he's good. He doesn't, he leads me besides, in the green pastures, besides still waters. That's what he does. So there might be a snake in that pasture. I'm going to stay here. Like I
Yeah.
want to go where the Lord leads me. And that's a
Yeah.
reminder to me not to be a coward.
So let's dive into that one just a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you do feel weak,
Yeah.
emotionally, physically, or spiritually, I mean, how do you realign with
Yeah.
God's strength? I mean, do you just blindly push through, or how do you navigate that part of it?
Yeah.
How do you know when you're pushing and God's saying, "Hey, dude, cut it out. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? You're way outside of my yoke now."
Yeah.
Um, so talk to me a little
Yeah.
bit about that.
Well, I guess I'd say this. I learned how to walk by leaning way too far one direction, falling down and feeling pain. I'm glad I learned to
Yeah,
walk when I weighed 28 pounds, not 128 pounds or 228 pounds. And I'm glad I was only a couple feet tall. So I didn't fall very far. I didn't hit very hard. But that's not how I learned to roller skate. That's not how I learned to ski. Same lesson, but it hurt a lot more because I was a lot older. I, I
yeah,
think that I think that there's a certain faith that isn't really faith at all. It's foolishness. And I don't know how to describe that to anybody except um, if I get out of the boat and walk on water for 2 seconds, great. But if Jesus has to carry me back to the boat, I shouldn't go water walking the next day. I should figure out what I'm lacking before I try it again. So there's a discernment here. I think
mhm,
again, these are personal, so I know what I mean to myself. I know that
yeah,
when I start giving excuses, when doors open that I believe God is opening, and all he hears is my yeah buts. Yeah, but yeah, but I'm so yeah, but I'm not enough. That's not an uncommon response to God calling you to do something, but it's a disobedient response. So it's me reminding myself that if God calls me to do it, even though I've never done it before, even though I don't know anyone who ever has, even though I don't know that I have the stamina or the bandwidth or the whatever it takes to do it, if God's leading me there, then I don't go alone. And maybe this
yeah,
helps too. This is something that is behind all of this is that when God called us to Fenton, yeah, again, my resume doesn't support it. My life choices prior to being a pastor, I have no business serving this church and being here as many years as God has graced us to be here. I have no there. I'm still not qualified to pastor Freedom Center Church. If they were looking for a pastor today, they still wouldn't hire me today. I'm not qualified to do it, and yet I've been the pastor for 30 years, right?
yeah,
Um, so I come back. I gave God my yes when we came here, but it's on this condition, and maybe this is something for someone who's listening right now. I will do anything you call me to do. I'll go anywhere. I'll sacrifice anything on one condition. You have to go with me. I I I wouldn't last 10 minutes without you. So, and in that moment of transaction, my
mhm,
conditional yes, the Lord just gave me the picture of this is no harder than we're going to build a tree fort together, son. So anytime what God's called me to do gets more complicated than a father and a son building a tree fort, I realize that I'm walking away from something that he promised me, a position that he's given me. So I know all my
mhm.
analogies sound so childish, but I think there's something really powerful about being the child if you have a wonderful father. I have no problem
Sure.
being the child because I have a wonderful father. I don't need to be in control.
Yeah,
And the older I get, the more childlike my faith has become, the more simple things have
yeah,
become, the more simple my doctrine, my words have become. But I believe it I don't need as many words anymore. I believe it. I don't need to talk
mm,
myself into it. So I've been building this beautiful tree fort in the kingdom of God's backyard, for the last 60 years by his grace. And till my last breath, I'll keep building that tree fort. And then I get to present
yeah,
to him the tree fort like I did it. You know what I mean?
yep,
I just held the board while he nailed it, but I,
yeah.
I get to present to him my life's work and he rewards me, when he's the one
Yeah.
who provided
It's
everything. And,
it's mind-boggling, isn't it? So I think what I hear you saying is knowing that God's leading you is really an important piece of the puzzle here, right?
yeah,
That I think I've said yes to good things that God never intended me to put my hand on.
yeah, me too.
And I've made that mistake many times. in
Yeah.
in my life. But there are things that God has asked me to do that
Yeah.
I've wondered, God, do I have it in me
Yeah.
to do that? And I like how God is patient with us in those moments,
Yeah.
and He coaches us in those moments,
Yeah.
and He gives us some space to wrestle
Yeah.
with it. We're launching some initiatives next year that we've never done before.
Yeah.
And Jim, I started to get the idea for it back in the summer. So we'll launch something
Yeah.
maybe in January of 2026 that had a genesis in May of
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah.
And the first 2 months from, May, June, and probably even July were me wrestling.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And God, I get it. I understand this, but
Yeah.
I have these objections. I have these concerns.
Yeah.
And it got to this place, Jim, where one morning I'm sitting quietly and just trying to listen. And and I felt like God, in a non-threatening way, in a fatherly way, said, John, if you don't do this, I'll just raise somebody else up to do it. And I didn't feel threatened in that moment
No. 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 No.
at all. I felt like God was just laying the cards on the table. So, look, this is
Yeah.
so important
Yeah.
that I'm not going to let this idea fall off the table because you're not willing to do it. If you're not willing to do it, still love you, still my son,
Yeah.
and all of that good stuff. But it's so important. I'm going to raise somebody else up to do it. That was like the
Yeah.
capper for me. I said,
Yeah.
okay, God, I still don't know how we're going to do this,
Yeah.
but
But I'm
I'm
willing to
I'm
try.
going to I'm going to
Yeah.
try. I'm going to move
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
So I understand that
Yeah.
that seventh declaration. So Jim, as we've walked through this the last 2 weeks, it's really struck me that when we out loud declare God's truth, God's perspective of us, that we're loved, that we're in Him, we're enough, we're anointed, we're
Yeah.
influential, we're strong. We're not trying to become something new. We're awakening to
That's good. Yeah.
who we've always been in
Yeah.
Him.
Right. We're just agreeing.
Yeah, and we come into agreement. That's a great
Yeah.
thought process.
Yeah.
And that revelation doesn't just change our lives. It changes the lives of people we rub shoulders with.
Yeah.
And I happen to believe it changes everything for the better
Yes, it does.
in our lives and in their lives. And so I want to thank you for your transparency these last 2 weeks and just opening up this is your private life, in so many ways. Thank you for opening up your private life to
Yeah.
to the audience, to our watchers and listeners. And I think if you've never heard Jim talk like this before, I mean, I've heard snippets of this along the way in 10 years. I'm just so glad that you get a chance to have a view, a window into Jim's
Hmm.
inner life. And I admire you. I appreciate your friendship, and I've learned so much from you. And so thank you for opening
Thank you.
yourself up these
Yeah.
last 2 weeks, Jim.
Right back at you. Yeah. Right on. Well, everybody that's watching and listening, man, we encourage you to maybe start with one. Maybe start like, where do you
Yes.
wrestle? Where do you struggle? What's the lie you believe? Let's write out what God says about you in that place and start there. This list started with number six. And then I added other
Mm,
things that came before it, obviously. And John taught on this is my beloved son with whom I'm well pleased. I added those points based on that teaching. It's okay to modify this list, change the language. This is your
that's
servant,
right.
it's got to be true. It's got to be more true than the things that we believe that aren't true. Because, as a man thinks, so is he. And there's a narrative that plays in your heart. And so if you're a dirty orphan that's being tolerated, you live a certain way. If you're a clean son that's being celebrated, you live differently. So who are you as God sees you? Maybe it's time for you to agree with him and quit arguing with him
Yeah.
about how what he meant when he created you. So if we can help in any way, That is a joy for us. Again, number six that I look at regularly is I want to help you. And I know John's probably all seven of John's has to do with you. And I so we I don't know. I said it last week, but our fruit grows best on other people's trees, and that's yours. How can we help you grow? How can we help you think? How can we help you see? How can we help you hear what God is saying in the season that you're in? Convergecoach.com. There's a connect link. Click it. And who knows? Maybe we change the world. Words are powerful. And we'd love to hear yours. Love for you to hear some of ours as well. So God bless you, dear watchers. And listeners, you are maybe a lot more than you think you are. And man, go into that gold mine of who God's made you to be and see the nuggets that He's put in there. And you will be wealthy in ways maybe you never imagined as God continues to lead you and you continue to lead from alignment.